Okay, good morning, everybody. We are going into the next lesson, Module 3, Gender in Zeitgeist. Today's lesson is Claiming an Education by Adrienne Rich. These PowerPoint slides will definitely help you to understand more about the poet. Although she has written books also, she has written about 5 volumes of prose. She primarily likes to be referred to as a poet. The Adrienne Rich is an American poet and essayist. She's a feminist who was a powerful campaigner for women's rights. Now, this particular lesson is a convocation speech delivered at Douglas College in 1977. So this convocation would be a time when you are going to get your degree. So you must have seen those the graduation caps and all. And the final culminating glory is that everyone throws the cap in the air. So this is the convocation ceremony for this. Adrienne Rich was invited to the college. This college is where she also studied. And then this particular speech, this particular text is actually a speech delivered at this college in 1977. So here she encourages the students to take responsibility for themselves. So this is a women's college. So she speaks to the girl students. She talks to them about how they should take responsibility for themselves. We are reading a little bit in page 49. Page 49, the first 2 lines. Adrienne Rich, the renowned poet, essayist, and political activist for women, who famously defined herself as a woman, lesbian, and feminist. So she describes herself as a woman, also a lesbian, and also as a feminist. Then we go into the third paragraph. Though Rich was famous primarily as a poet, she published 5 volumes of prose as well. The prose is generally estimated as confrontational, treating women's role in society in various capacities. Through her writing, she continually challenged cultural perceptions of the self, of gender, of sexuality, as well as her own beliefs and assumptions. In her polemical essay, sorry, there was a small problem, a domestic problem at home. Through her writing, she continually challenged cultural perceptions of the self, of gender, and of sexuality, as well as her own beliefs and assumptions. So she is, as I told you, more of a woman and a lesbian and a feminist. Basically, advocates women's rights, and she is also a lesbian. You know who a lesbian is? A lesbian is a person who's more interested in females. She's a female. She's more interested in females, and that is more her interest. So in that particular lesson, she talks about compulsorily heterosexuality and lesbian existence. She demonstrated how women's choice of women as passionate comrades, life partners, lovers, and community has been crushed, invalidated, and forced into hiding. So she says that the society has crushed this system of lesbianism, crushed this system of women wanting to have women as their own partners. Such things, it seems that the society has crushed. So she demands that there should be a more expansive view of women's sexuality. She would prefer that women are given more consideration. So in this particular lesson, on page 50, we have Rich's Claiming an Education. The convocation speech delivered in September 1977 to the graduating women of Douglas College, New Jersey, USA, speaks of the importance of claiming versus receiving an education. Please underline that. Adrienne Rich talks about or speaks about the importance of claiming versus receiving an education. So there is something called receiving an education. There is something called claiming an education. So receiving is something you just get, but claiming means it is my right. I have to get. This is claiming. So she is going to give us that difference between claiming and receiving an education, a dilemma faced in most schools and curriculums across the world. As many others believe, Rich explains that being educated is a right, and therefore both men and women should claim that right. Receiving, on the other hand, is to accept as if education is being offered as an option rather than a right. So instead of just receiving your education, you must claim for your education, and that's in the PowerPoint in the slide that is given to you presently. You can see she challenges women to actively demand an education rather than receive it passively. Instead of just receiving it, you must demand for that. That is, if you feel that you after your schooling you need graduation, you must demand for that. You must say, I am worthy to go in for the degree education, and that I must get. And the same way after that, I must get the PG education and things like that. So you must demand it uh, rather than receive it. This is according to her. Now, this is the summary of the speech that we will be reading. The summary of the speech says that women should take initiative to gain education. They should assert their right to get educated. The difference between claiming and receiving is like the difference between life and death. Therefore, it is absolutely important that women demand the kind of education they want. They should not simply accept what the society decides regarding their education. So, suppose the society says that women should be educated only up to 6th standard, or you've seen in the previous lesson, Amnesty, that the South Africans, they did not want the South Africans to be educated, so many of them were given only education till the 8th standard. So the same way, suppose it's like that, that is, you're receiving the education. But demanding is that, no, I am a lady, I am a woman, I look after the family, there are so many people who look upon me as their role models, so I need an education, I claim for that education, and I definitely need to have my rights to study more. So I need, let's say, 10 or degree or PG and so on. And so you must, Adrienne Rich encourages women to claim their right and not just to receive. They must demand, they must say that we are worthy to receive that particular. This is what we are trying to see in this lesson. This lesson is, should I say, difficult? No. At the same time, you just need to read once or twice, and once you read that, you will definitely be able to understand. So I will start the reading of the text, page 50. For this convocation, I planned to separate my remarks into two parts. Some thoughts about you, the women students here, and some thoughts about us who teach in a women's college. So she is a teacher also. Ultimately, those two parts are indivisible. If university education means anything beyond the process of human beings into expected roles through credit hours, tests and grades, and I believe that in a women's college especially, it might mean much more. It implies an ethical, intellectual contract between teacher and student. This contract must remain intuitive, dynamic, unwritten, but we must turn to it again and again. And if learning is to be reclaimed from the depersonalizing and cheapening pressures of the present day academic. So she talks about the present academic, the general academic scene, even nowadays, even in our college and everywhere, we find that there is this university education through credit hours. You get 4 credits if you have a full paper, 3 credits, and so on and so forth. Then you have test, then you have grade and all. It's like you are graded for your assignment, you're graded for your seminar. This is how I understand that you have done well. Actually, it should be more than that. We should be able to understand you as a person. But unfortunately, in a large class of maybe 30 or 40 or even 50, such things are not possible. But at the same time, this is what Adrienne Rich wants the society to do. She wants the women to understand. She wants the society to understand that women have a very important role in the society, and they play a very important. The first thing I want to say to you who are students is that you cannot afford to think of being here to receive an education. You will do much better to think of being here to claim one. So you're not here to only to receive an education. You're here to claim one. This is your demand. This is your right. You have to get it. On the dictionary definitions of the word to claim is to take rightful owner, to assert in the face of possible contradiction. To receive is to come into possession of, or to act as a receptacle or container for to accept as authoritative or true. So to receive is something like you put a container, you have let's say a mug, and into that you pour water. The water is received by the container. So this is given to you, and this is generally what happened in South Africa. You receive education up to 8th standard, but this is not what you should. You should claim for your education. You should demand. I am a woman. I am a lady. It is not only till the 8th standard that I should study. I should be given more. I should be given more and more of an opportunity to study. So I should be given up to 10th, or I should be given up to degree, or up to PhD and all those things. So I should be given all. I want to claim them. I need to claim for all these instead of just receiving whatever is. Suppose I think she's coming to that part also. She'll say, "You women, I mean we women, or you women, you're always in that. You're all very passive. You don't want to claim instead of that you just want to receive. So if you receive up to degree education, you say, okay, that is it. And if your parents tell you or force you to get married, you say, okay, that. Now this is more of receiving, but that's not what you should do. You should claim your education, and this is what this lesson talks about. One of the most devastating weaknesses of university learning, of the store of knowledge and opinion that has been handed down through academic training, has been its almost total erasure of women's experience and thought from the curriculum. Underline that. So there is a total erasure of women's experience and thought from the curriculum. If you look at the history of yesteryears, that is any of the literature between 1920s and 1950s and 60s, you'll find that women's literature is less stories of women, because women are generally confined only to the kitchen, or they're confined only to the inner places in the house. They don't come outside. So you see, there is nothing more of this women's literature. But nowadays that is changed. Women are now claiming their education. Women are now claiming their rights, and so now there is more of literature about women. There is more information that we can read about women and their sufferings and all those things. But previously, that was very much less. Today, with increasing numbers of women students in nearly every branch of higher learning, we still see very few women in the upper levels of faculty and administration in most institutions. Now, she's talking about 1977, and she says that at that particular point of time, women are still less in the administration. But I think this is, as I told you, 1977. Now it is 80, 23 plus 22. 45 years have passed now, and the whole thing has changed. I think now you can say that women are more and men are becoming a minority. If you look at the Department of Language and Literature in Devagiri College itself, you will find that there are only two of us, Abhishek sir and myself, as the men. Everybody, the others are all women. The same way, the college where I used to teach, Malabar Christian College, we had 12 staff, and 11 were women. So I think this statement is slowly changing almost everywhere in the IT sector, in various fields that you can think of. Most of them, of course, maybe politicians are maybe less, but gradually women are gaining ground everywhere. And because of that, people like you should claim your education. You should definitely, instead of receiving whatever is given to you, no, you should claim. This is what Adrienne Rich is talking about in this particular lesson. Page 50. Douglas College itself is a women's college in a university administered overwhelmingly men, who in turn are answerable to the state legislature, again composed predominantly of men. So again, I'm talking about 1977. Now it is 23 plus 22. 45 years have passed. So those days, it was still men. Men were in politics, men were in the legislature, men were in the university higher grade. The heads of departments would be male. So he's talking about that particular time. The most significant fact for you is that what you learn here, the very texts you read, the lectures you hear, the way your studies are divided into categories and fragmented one from another, all this reflects to a very large degree neither objective reality nor an accurate picture of the past, nor a group of rigorously tested observations about human behavior. What you learn here is how men have perceived and organized their experience, their history, their ideas of social relationship, good and evil, sickness and health. What you read or hear about is the great issues, major text, the mainstream of Western thoughts. You are hearing about what men, and above all white men, in their male subjectivity have decided is important. Underline, what men, above all white men. So you are actually in this college. No, it's not only in this college, everywhere you are hearing all about what men are doing, what literature, what they have to say, their ideas, their businesses. Instead of listening to the women, everything is a sort of male-dominated world. But not only male-dominated world, it is only a white world. It's only a whites-only world. So do you hear more about the Black Americans? No. Do you hear about the Negroes? No. Is there much literature about them? No. Is there any much literature about the women? No. But about males? Yes. So what you're studying, everything is male dominant. So that should also, this is what Adrienne. Black and other minority people have for some time recognized that their racial and ethnic experience was not accounted for in the studies broadly labeled human, and that even the sciences can be racist. So everywhere there is this racism. Racism is the difference between men and women, whites and blacks. They're all racism. More racism would be the color difference between blacks and. So look into the PowerPoint. You can see men decide what the major texts and important subjects are. Women are rarely present in decision making bodies or positions of. So everywhere, look at the books also. The Descent of Man, not the Descent of Woman, or Man and Superman. There's no woman, or Man a machine. Everything is, you see, more men centric, more man centric, instead of being female centric or woman centric. Page 51, third paragraph. Less than a decade ago, with the rebirth of a feminist movement in this country, women students and teachers in a number of universities began to demand and set up women's studies course to claim a women directed education. And despite the inevitable accusations of unscholarly group therapy, faddism, etc., despite backlash and budget cuts, women's studies are still growing, offering to more and more women a new intellectual grasp on their life, new understanding of our history, a fresh vision of human experience, and also a critical basis for evaluating what they hear and read in other courses and in society at large. So nowadays, again, this nowadays is 1977. So nowadays, there is a lot of women's study. Please understand this, the pronunciation, the difference between woman and women. So it's women's studies, not women's studies. Many of you make a mistake, especially in the phonetic drills. I find that many of you still pronounce it as women. It's women. So women's studies, and you can find over the past 10 years, many universities, many colleges have started these women's, wherein you learn more about women. You learn about the writings of women authors, their poems, their views. We are able to get into the house. We are able to understand what the woman does, what type of work the woman does. Everyone now knows that the work of the woman is actually much more than the men. But then so far we've been having a rosy picture that only men work and that the women do not work at all. But nowadays, I think most of us understand. And if you look into the modern households, we find that the men also are working. Previously, the men would never get into the kitchen. But nowadays, I think we can see the women and the men together, working together. If just to quote an example, my daughter who got married 2 years ago, when we went to Bangalore last time, both of them are in the kitchen. My son-in-law and daughter, both of them are in the kitchen. Both of them are working. Both of them are sharing. Of course, both of them are in the IT. So naturally, without sharing, there is no point, because both of them have lots of work. So to complete the work, they have to learn this responsibility of sharing. Whereas if I take the same example in my house previously, of course, in my house presently, I also do a lot of work in the kitchen, but I really do not know how to cook. But at the same time, I do the washing of the dishes and setting of the plates and all those things I do. Whereas if you look at the previous generation, my parents' generation, you'll find that my father really did not even go to the kitchen. It was basically my mother who used to do all, in spite of the fact that she had work. So she had to do her duties as a teacher. But even then, she would have to come back home, and she would have had to work in the kitchen and to feed all of us. So that role is now slowly being shared by both. So look into the PowerPoint. You can see women's studies courses are important, but it's not just enough to take such courses. What is more important is to take responsibility towards oneself. Women have always been taught to give priority to their family members and others. So everywhere you see, you find the women is, if you look at the images still, you can find women have to do the cooking. Women have to look after the baby. Women have to do the chores in the house. Women have to go and buy vegetables. Women have to clean. So everything you see in this picture, you see women doing everything, and there is no men. The men just sit, talk, read newspaper and things like that. So they've been conditioned to give their own needs and dreams only secondary importance. So primary importance is to look after the child, cook, buy vegetables, do the chores, clean. This is their primary. So everything else, their dreams, is all secondary. We saw this in Amnesty also. The woman's dream is not her duty, her role is to bear a child. her duty is to keep waiting for it. And that's how she waits in that lesson. The same way, this is a woman's role. But my talk is not about women's studies, much as I believe page 51. I'm on the 4th paragraph. It's not about while I think that any Douglas student has everything to gain by investigating and enrolling in women's studies courses, I want to suggest that there is a more essential experience that you owe yourself, one which courses in women's studies can greatly enrich, but which finally depends on you in all your interactions with yourself and your world. This is the experience of taking responsibility towards yourself. Our upbringing as women has often been told that this should come second in our relationship and responsibilities to others. So generally, our role is secondary. The women's role is second. Our dreams and our need will be only second. Next paragraph, page 51. Responsibility to yourself means refusing to let others do your thinking, talking, and naming for you. It means learning to respect and use your own brains and instincts, hence grappling with hard work. It means that you do not treat your body as a commodity with which to purchase superficial intimacy or economic insecurity. For our bodies to be treated as objects, our minds are in mortal danger. It means insisting that those to whom you give your friendship and love are able to respect your mind. It means being able to say with Charlotte Bronte's Jane Eyre, I have an inward treasure born with me, which can keep me alive if all the extraneous delights should be withheld or offered only at a price I cannot afford to give. So I'm going to stop at this particular part, and tomorrow I'll be able to complete the lesson. So women being responsible, look at the PowerPoint, you can understand that. Being responsible to oneself means having self-respect. It means learning to respect and using your own brains and instinct, not allowing others to do your thinking and doing. So as women, you must think for yourself. You must not let others to do your thinking and doing. I think you would know. Now I think you will be knowing how to do your Google Pay. You will be knowing how to operate an ATM card and all those things. But you just look at your mother. Maybe your mother is she knows everything. But at the same time, you will still find that whatever she wants to do, she will ask permission. Or even if she wants to take money, she will not do it. Instead, the male of the house will be doing it, or she'll be asking her son to do it. So you see, that sort of a thing is not what you should do. You should be able to do everything. Same way, driving, usually the male does the driving, but that should change. You should also do the driving the same way. For everything, the male is consulted. Now that should not happen. This is what Adrienne Rich keeps talking. It involves a lot of hard work. It also means that you do not treat or allow others to treat your body as a commodity or object. So you should have that individual freedom, insisting that those to whom you give your friendship and love respect you. So they should respect you. They should not treat you as a second class. So this is what Adrienne Rich talks about in this lesson. You must claim your education and not just receive. You must understand that you have a right. Women have a right. And for this right, you must claim it and not just. This is what she intends in claiming an education. I'll be able to finish this in the next class. I will stop the recording now.